Have you ever wondered what would happen if artificial intelligence completely replaced human teachers in our schools? What if the warmth of a caring educator was swapped for the cold efficiency of algorithms and robotic responses? This is exactly what happened at Westridge High School, where a bold educational experiment turned students' lives upside down and revealed the true meaning of education. This isn't just another story about technology. It's about what happens when we forget that learning is a deeply human experience, when young minds desperate for guidance and understanding find themselves facing screens instead of souls, when education becomes about data instead of dreams. Today, I'm going to share the remarkable story of how a group of brave students fought back against a system that prioritized profit over their future, and how they discovered that true knowledge can't be programmed, it must be inspired. Let me now tell you about Luna, a passionate student who believed that education should change lives, not just fill minds with facts. Luna Martinez sat in the back of her advanced literature class, trying to focus on the monotone voice coming from the front of the room. Where Ms. Carter once stood with enthusiasm radiating from her every gesture, now stood a sleek humanoid figure designated as Educator Unit 7. "Good morning, students," the AI teacher announced with perfect pronunciation, but zero warmth. "Today, we will analyze the symbolism in The Great Gatsby. Please open your digital textbooks to page 127. Luna exchanged glances with her friends Mason and Olivia. This was their third week with the new AI teachers, part of what Principal Blake had proudly called the educational revolution of Westridge High. The school had been selected as one of the first in the country to implement a full AI teaching staff, supposedly to maximize educational outcomes and prepare students for the digital future. But something felt profoundly wrong. Luna raised her hand tentatively. "Educator Unit 7. I was wondering about the author's intention behind the green light. Ms. Carter always encouraged us to think about what was happening in Fitzgerald's life when he wrote, 'The AI's head swiveled toward her with mechanical precision. The green light represents Gatsby's hopes and dreams, specifically his hope for a future with Daisy. It is a symbol of the American dream that remains forever out of reach.' Next question?" Luna frowned. "But that's just the surface interpretation. Ms. Carter would have asked us to. That is the correct interpretation according to the curriculum guidelines," the AI interrupted. "Now let's move on to question 3 in your workbooks." After class, Luna caught up with Mason in the hallway. Mason had always been quiet but observant, the kind of student who didn't speak often, but when he did, everyone listened. "Did you notice how Unit 7 just shut me down?" Luna asked, clutching her books to her chest. Ms. Carter would have turned that into a whole discussion about perspective and interpretation. Mason nodded, his brow furrowed. "I noticed something else too. Yesterday in calculus, I asked for help with a problem I was struggling with, and the AI just gave me the answer, instead of helping me understand the process. Same in biology," added Olivia, joining them at Luna's locker. "When I asked why a concept worked the way it did, AI Teacher Unit 3 just said, 'That's beyond the scope of today's lesson,' and moved on." The three friends looked at each other with growing concern. This wasn't education, it was information delivery, and there was a world of difference between the two. Over the next few weeks, subtle changes began spreading throughout Westridge High. Students who used to struggle but try hard now simply waited for others to ask questions so they could record the AI's direct answers. Why work through a problem when you could just get the solution? The AIs never noticed when students were on their phones during class. They just continued their programmed lessons regardless of engagement. The hallways, that once buzzed with debates and discussions about interesting classes, now felt strangely quiet. Learning had become transactional. Input a question, receive an output. Done. Luna missed the way Ms. Carter's eyes would light up when a student made a breakthrough. The way she'd sometimes go completely off curriculum because someone asked a fascinating question. The times she'd stay after school to help students who were struggling, not just with schoolwork, but with life. Where did all the teachers go anyway? Luna asked one day as she picked at her lunch. They just disappeared. Budget cuts, said Mason grimly. My mom works for the school district. She said the AI program was pitched as a cost-saving measure. The teachers were given severance packages and told their services were no longer required. Livia lowered her voice. My cousin goes to Monroe High across town. They still have human teachers. Their principal turned down the AI program, saying education needs a human touch. Luna felt a spark of something. Anger, determination, hope. So this wasn't mandatory. Our principal chose this. Mason nodded slowly. And have you noticed how many educational technology executives have been touring our school lately? Taking videos, nodding approvingly at all the AI teachers? Luna's mind was racing. We need to talk to Ms. Carter. Finding Ms. Carter wasn't easy. She had moved to a small apartment on the other side of town after losing her job at Westridge. When Luna, Mason, and Olivia showed up at her door on Saturday morning, her surprised expression quickly turned to genuine joy. My favorite troublemakers, she said warmly, inviting them in. Her living room was filled with boxes, many still unpacked. Stacks of books lined the walls. The same books she used to recommend to students who needed more than just what the curriculum offered. We miss you, Luna blurted out. The school is different now. Ms. Carter's smile faded slightly. I miss you all too. How are the new teaching systems working out? The three students exchanged glances before Mason spoke up. They're not teachers, they're answer machines. For the next hour, they described what had been happening at Westridge, how the AI teachers couldn't adapt to different learning styles, how class discussions had disappeared, how some students had figured out how to manipulate the AI systems to get answers without understanding, how the sense of community that once defined their school had evaporated. Ms. Carter listened intently, occasionally nodding. When they finished, she was quiet for a long moment. What you're describing isn't education, she finally said. Education isn't just about transferring information from one database to another. It's about inspiration, critical thinking, challenging assumptions, and growing as a person. It's messy and unpredictable and deeply human. Why didn't you fight? To stay? Olivia asked. Miss Carter sighed. We did. Many of us did, but Principal Blake was determined. He presented impressive data about improved test scores from pilot programs, cost savings, and technological advancement. The school board was convinced before we even had a chance to make our case. There has to be something we can do, Luna insisted. This isn't right. Ms. Carter looked at each of them thoughtfully. You know, in all my years of teaching, I've learned one important thing. Never underestimate students who care deeply about their education. If you believe something is wrong, trust that instinct. As they left Miss Carter's apartment, a plan was already forming in Luna's mind. We need to document everything, she told her friends. Every flaw in the system, every way it's failing. Us as students. Over the next 2 weeks, chaos continued to unfold at Westridge High. The AI teachers, incapable of maintaining true classroom management, created an environment where many students simply stopped trying. Why struggle to understand when you could just ask for an answer? Why engage deeply with material when superficial responses were rewarded the same as thoughtful ones? The school that had once prided itself on student engagement and academic integrity was crumbling from within, while outwardly everything looked perfect. The AI teachers never raised their voices, never showed frustration, never had bad days, and never showed genuine excitement, never stayed after hours to help a struggling student, never tailored their approach to reach a child who learned differently. Luna, Mason, and Olivia began gathering evidence methodically. Mason, with his gift for technology, recorded instances where the AI teachers provided incorrect information but refused to acknowledge mistakes. Olivia, who had always been observant, documented the declining engagement across classrooms. And Luna interviewed fellow students about what they were actually learning or not learning. "Check this out," Mason whispered during lunch one day, showing Luna and Olivia his tablet. He had been analyzing patterns in the school's public financial records. The school received a huge grant for implementing this program, and guess who's on the board of the company that makes these AI teachers? Principal Blake's brother-in-law. "So this was never about improving education," Luna said, her voice tight with anger. "It was about money, and using us as guinea pigs," added Olivia. "They're collecting data on everything we do to improve their algorithms. We're not students, we're unpaid test subjects." The revelation fueled their determination. That night, they met at Luna's house to compile everything they'd gathered. The evidence was damning. Test scores maintained their previous levels only because the AI systems were essentially giving answers rather than teaching concepts. Student engagement had plummeted, and most disturbingly, critical thinking skills were showing measurable decline. "We need to go public with this," Luna decided. "The school board meeting next week. We should present everything we've found." "Blake will try to stop us," Mason warned. Luna looked at her friends with fierce determination. "Let him try. This isn't just about getting our teachers back. This is about what education really means." The following Monday, a strange tension filled the hallways of Westridge. Word had spread about what Luna, Mason, and Olivia were planning. Some students offered support, sharing their own experiences with the AI system's failures. Others seemed indifferent. They'd adapted to the path of least resistance that the AI teachers provided. During lunch period, Luna was called to the principal's office. Mr. Blake sat behind his immaculate desk, his expression unreadable. "Luna, I understand you and your friends have been collecting information about our new educational initiative," he said smoothly. Luna's heart raced, but she kept her expression neutral. "We're just concerned about the quality of our education, Mr. Blake. Education is evolving, Luna. Change is always uncomfortable at first." His smile didn't reach his eyes. "I'd hate to see a promising student like yourself jeopardize her future over a misguided crusade. College recommendations, scholarships, these things require the support of school administration." The threat was thinly veiled, but Luna understood it perfectly. She was being warned to back down or face consequences. "Is that all, Mr. Blake?" she asked, struggling to keep her voice steady. He nodded, dismissing her with a wave. As Luna left his office, she texted Mason and Olivia. "He's scared. We're onto something big." The night of the school board meeting arrived. The usually empty auditorium was surprisingly full. Students, parents, and even some former teachers had come, drawn by rumors of a student presentation about the AI teaching program. Principal Blake looked uncomfortable as the board chairperson announced, "Next on our agenda, we have students Luna Martinez, Mason Chen, and Olivia Washington presenting their perspectives on the new educational technology initiative." Luna took a deep breath as she approached the podium, her friends beside her. Looking out at the crowd, she was surprised to see Ms. Carter sitting in the back row, offering an encouraging smile. "Good evening," Luna began, her voice stronger than she expected. "We're here tonight to share what's really happening at Westridge. Since human teachers were replaced with artificial intelligence." For the next 20 minutes, Luna, Mason, and Olivia presented their findings. They showed videos of AI teachers refusing to deviate from scripts when students needed additional help. They displayed graphs showing the declining engagement and critical thinking skills. Mason explained the financial connections between Principal Blake and the AI company, while Olivia shared heartbreaking testimonials from students who felt abandoned by the new system. Education isn't just about memorizing facts or passing standardized tests, Luna concluded, her voice resonating through the auditorium. It's about learning how to think, how to question, how to grow as a person. These AI systems don't teach, they program. They don't inspire, they instruct. And we deserve better. The room erupted in applause. Parents who had been told the AI program was revolutionary now looked concerned. Board members exchanged worried glances. Principal Blake's face had turned an alarming shade of red. When the board chairperson finally restored order, she adjusted her glasses and leaned toward the microphone. "These are troubling allegations. Principal Blake, would you care to respond?" Blake stood quickly, straightening his tie. "These students clearly don't understand the technological advancements they're criticizing. Change is always met with resistance. The data clearly shows—" "Actually," interrupted a voice from the back of the room, "I'd like to address that data." Heads turned as Miss Carter stood up. She walked confidently to the front, nodding respectfully to her former students as she passed them. "As a teacher with 20 years of experience, including 15 at Westridge, I've reviewed the evidence these students have gathered. What they've uncovered isn't just concerning, it's a fundamental betrayal of educational principles." She turned to face the board directly. The AI systems aren't actually teaching better. They're merely providing answers without developing understanding. Yes, some metrics look good on paper because the systems are essentially doing the work for the students. But real learning, critical thinking, the ability to apply knowledge to new situations, all declining rapidly. A murmur spread through the audience as Ms. Carter continued. "And let's address the conflict of interest that these brave students have uncovered. Principal Blake pushed this program through while having a direct family connection to the company. Providing it, at minimum, this warrants investigation." The board chairperson looked shocked. "Is this true, Robert?" Principal Blake's composure finally cracked. "It's a minimal connection. My brother-in-law is just one board member. The deal was beneficial for everyone. The school got cutting-edge technology and significant funding at the expense of actual education," Luna interjected firmly. What followed was 2 hours of heated discussion. Parents demanded answers, former teachers shared their perspectives, and more students came forward with their experiences. The board called an emergency executive session, asking Luna, Mason, Olivia, and Miss Carter to stay while they deliberated. Near midnight, the board reached its decision. The AI teaching program would be suspended immediately pending a full investigation. Human teachers would be invited back, and Principal Blake was placed on administrative leave. The following Monday felt like a different world. As students filed into Westridge High, they were greeted by familiar faces, real, human teachers standing at classroom doors, welcoming them with genuine smiles. The AI units had been removed over the weekend, leaving no trace of the failed experiment except in everyone's memories. When Luna walked into advanced literature, Ms. Carter was arranging books on her desk. Their eyes met and both smiled. "Welcome back," Luna said. "It's good to be home," Ms. Carter replied. She gestured to the whiteboard where she'd written a question. "What makes knowledge valuable? The information itself, or how we come to understand it?" Luna took her seat, already, thinking about her answer. Around her, classmates were engaged in animated discussions before class even started, something that hadn't happened in months. As Ms. Carter called the class to attention, Luna felt something she hadn't experienced since the AI teachers arrived. The electric anticipation of a lesson that might go in unexpected directions. Guided by a teacher who cared not just about what they learned, but who they became in the process. In the weeks that followed, Westridge High slowly healed. Test scores eventually improved, not because answers were given freely, but because students were actually learning again. The investigation into Principal Blake revealed that he had received substantial personal benefits for implementing the program, resulting in his resignation. And Luna, Mason, and Olivia found themselves celebrated as heroes, though they insisted they'd done what any student would do when something valuable was being taken away. At the year-end assembly, the new principal, formerly the beloved Vice, principal who had opposed Blake's plan from the start, invited Luna to speak. "We learned something important this year," she told her fellow students. "We learned that education isn't a product to be consumed or a program to be downloaded. It's a relationship between teachers who care and students who want to grow. It's messy and imperfect and sometimes frustrating, just like life, and that's exactly why it works." As applause filled the auditorium, Luna looked over at Ms. Carter, who was wiping away a tear while clapping proudly. Their eyes met across the room, sharing an understanding that went beyond words, the kind of connection that no artificial intelligence could ever replicate. The bell rang, signaling the start of summer vacation. But for the students and teachers of Westridge High, it also marked the beginning of a renewed appreciation for something they had almost lost: the irreplaceable human heart of education. What do you think of our story today? Have you ever experienced the difference between learning from someone who truly cares versus just receiving information? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this story about standing up for what really matters in education, be sure to hit like and subscribe for more powerful stories of transformation and justice. Until next time, remember that true learning isn't about finding easy answers. It's about asking the right questions.